Hi everyone, and welcome to the Mixology Talk Podcast number 13, where we simplify cocktails and bartending techniques so you can make great drinks at home. I'm Chris.
And I'm Julia, and you may have noticed that our intro is a little bit different this time. We actually had a couple of our listeners tell us that our previous intro sounded a little bit like a monster truck rally.
Monday, Monday, Monday! So we considered changing our topic to monster trucks, but decided to change our intro instead.
Turns out we don't know a lot about monster trucks.
Nothing at all, actually.
I like it. I like the new intro.
So, let us know what you think by leaving us a comment at mixologytalk.com/13.
This week we have a surprise for you. We were planning on talking about something related to food.
And we're going to keep the suspense on that.
But we're super lucky to get some time with Bob Peters, a good friend from North Carolina. So we're going to go ahead and play that interview this week, and next time we'll pick up where we left off.
So without further ado, here's our conversation with Bob. So, hi everyone, we're here with Bob the bartender, and we're going to be talking about the craft cocktail scene in North Carolina. So, hi Bob.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh, good, man.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, thanks for being here. This is going to be a lot of fun, for sure.
So, Bob, where do you work?
I actually work here in Charlotte, North Carolina, at a wonderful place called Pisces Sushi Bar and Lounge. And we actually have two locations. One in Charlotte in what we refer to as Midtown, and then there's another location a little north of Charlotte in Mooresville, North Carolina. And they are both beautiful places, and the owners are some of the most amazing people I've ever worked for in my life.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So what's a craft cocktail scene like that out there in North Carolina?
The craft cocktail scene here is it's a little young, but it is definitely coming a long way very quickly. There's some pockets here and there in Chapel Hill. There's some very nice places, some great mixology type bars, and here in town in Charlotte, there's a couple of us that are sort of forging the way. One of my very good friends, Stefan Hubner, is over at Heist Brewery, and he is an amazing mixologist, as well as Andy Maurer at Soul Gastro Lounge. Those guys both are doing things exceptionally right now, and it's really fun to know and see what those guys are up to on a constant basis. They're both good buddies of mine.
So there's some fantastic places to drink out in North Carolina, is what you're telling me.
There are. You have to know where you're going so you don't get lost, but you can definitely find an amazing cocktail here in Charlotte, that's for sure.
I love that. I think I've been hearing a lot of stories recently about craft cocktails making their way to the smaller towns in the last couple of years. I think it's definitely a good thing. You shouldn't have to go to New York to get a good cocktail. I
agree, and I tell you, a bunch of the people that were turning on the craft cocktails here in Charlotte and in North Carolina are incredibly surprised, and they're very, very happy with how the craft cocktail scene is sort of following the culinary world and the sort of farm to table, or as I like to refer to it, the farm to glass sort of situation.
I like that.
It's been a great trip, and I look forward to seeing what's coming in the future.
Definitely. So I know that when we talked about this interview, there were a couple of spirits that you were really excited about. So do you want to talk about those spirits?
Yes, I have two indispensable things that I'm working with right now. One of them is an ancient spirit, and one of them is a pretty brand new spirit. My old favorite is Fernet Branca, which actually has been around since 1845.
Wow.
And then, I know, that's so impressive. And then my new spirit favorite is Cardinal gin, which actually is a gin that's made here in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. And they're only about 4 years old, but what they have been doing is blowing the minds of every gin and non-gin lover that has tasted their product so far. It's really impressive.
Wow, that's pretty local, too.
Yeah, it's a quick 30, 40-minute jaunt from Charlotte to Kings Mountain. And it's really neat that there's two brothers that own and run and do everything in the company. It's Alex and Charlie Maloney, and they touch every bottle 5, maybe 6, 7 times when it comes in the door to the time it goes out.
Wow.
So, it's truly an artesian process, and they take great pride in what they do, and it definitely shows in the product. They've got right now two different things that they're doing with the gin. They're doing a barrel-aged gin and their original gin.
I love barrel-aged gins.
Super interesting about the barrel-aged gin is that they're aging it for 6 months in whiskey casks. So they're brand new white American oak that have like a medium char on the inside, and they throw it in there for 6 months and let it age. And when it comes out, it's so exceptionally beautiful. It's all the hard edges of certain flavor profiles from the gin get rounded off. Everything's very smooth. The barrel aging adds notes of caramel and vanilla in it.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
The general mouthfeel is just a little softer. It's really quite beautiful.
Nice. Well, we're definitely going to have to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, barrel-aged gin.
It's starting to make its way out west slowly but surely. I think they're in about 9 or 10 states right now and moving west as we speak.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I don't know about you, Chris, but I don't know a lot about barrel-aged gins. That's something I haven't really seen much of, so I'm kind of excited.
I think it's going to be a trend that probably sweeps through all the gin distillers at a certain point.
Well, why not? I mean, it's an interesting.
I know.
Yeah.
Barrel aging has really done a whole lot for a lot of spirits, including Fernet, which is a little known fact that Fernet is actually aged for a year.
Really?
In barrel. Yeah.
I had no idea.
I know. It's super interesting. They do a full year of barrel aging in European oak barrels. Now, I think they use a couple different kinds of oak, including, I think it's Eastern European oak and Slovenian, I think. Am I pronouncing that right? Anyway, so Fernet is from Milan, and it's an Amaro. It's an Amaro family. So, Campari and Aperol and what else? Cynar and a couple of those very bitter, herbaceous Italian digestives. This is sort of what people refer to as the king of the Amaros because it's super intense, very bitter, very herbaceous, and you can definitely taste really interesting things like peppermint and saffron, ginseng, Chinese rhubarb. You can taste myrrh in there. It's a super dynamic flavor profile.
Oh, I love Fernet so much.
It's like a slap in the mouth the first time you try it, man.
Yeah.
It's intense.
I think what I've heard from first timers are like it tastes like medicine. I've heard that, and I've also heard licorice.
Yes, absolutely. I've got work with a lot of amazing Asian Americans at Pisces Sushi Bar and Lounge. And they all tell me that it tastes like some medicine that they had when they were little kids.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
It sounds terrible, but actually it's quite a pleasant memory for everybody that I talk to. It's really
How funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. I know, when I typically offer up Fernet for first-timers, it can be a pretty intense flavor for a lot of people. So it just, you're opening your eyes and it's a brand new thing, but you can just kind of see it in their face when they drink. It's like, wow, that's not your average gin. There's nothing even close to some things that you've had before. So it can be, it's a fantastic spirit. And I have a lot of history, both good and bad, with Fernet for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's great.
Yeah, I think most of us in the bartending community have kind of wrestled with that Fernet for a while.
Yeah, Fernet is kind of like the bartender's drink, right?
Yeah, it is out here on the West Coast. They kind of, I'm not sure if it kind of mirrors what happened out east, but back here I want to say about 10 years ago, Fernet was essentially the secret handshake for bartenders. So,
right.
Yeah, you would go into a bar, you'd sit down, you order Fernet, and the bartender would look at you and basically just say, "Where do you work at?" And nobody else drank it but bartenders. And it's funny to see it kind of gain popularity, as kind of one of these counterculture spirits that everybody just, because, the bartending community adapted it and just kind of embraced it, that it just kind of, went into the mass market as well.
It was funny because one of our first dates, we went to a bar and I had no idea what was going on. And Chris ordered a Fernet and suddenly the bartender was just showering us in drinks. I was like, what did you do?
It was right. It's code. It's code for It's good for we're good people and we're going to take care of you. That's
I know.
great.
It was.
Yeah.
I was blown away. It was super funny. So we talked a little bit about the gin that you mentioned, and a little bit about Fernet. So how do you typically drink those two ingredients?
Well, of course, you can do anybody who's a true, like a sort of, how do you say it, a simplest, very much a minimalist. You can drink either one of these neat, of course, and you can get all the truest flavor profiles, or you can mix them. And you can do stuff very simply, like you can do with the Cardinal gin, tonic, or soda water, of course, to make a gin and tonic or gin and soda is very easy for anybody at home. Or also the Fernet, a really popular drink with Fernet down in South America is a Fernet and Coke.
Oh, well, that's simple enough.
Yeah. I know.
I bet
so
that's really good.
You can take it. It is excellent. And actually, I went down to Tales of the Cocktail this couple weeks ago in New Orleans, and they were passing out a Fernet and cola flavored soda. It was absolutely great.
That sounds
Oh,
amazing.
man, we missed that. Yeah.
It was super neat.
So when you say neat, just for folks who may not know, what does it mean to drink something neat?
Okay, I'm sorry. Something neat simply means in a glass.
So no ice, no nothing?
You can do it without not being chilled or not on the rocks, but just simply like a glass and your spirit. Then you just pour the spirit. A shot is a typical amount to have, which is 1 ounce.
Okay.
And then you can pour it all the way up to 2 ounces if you want. But I mean, that's going to get you there a lot.
That's intense. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
So that makes sense that you would be able to really taste the flavors of the spirit in sort of its truest way if there's no water from the ice and no other ingredients.
Absolutely. So with the Cardinal, it's really interesting. They have a ton of different ingredients that are unusual for gin. But this has sort of come out in sort of a style that might be called New American style gin, and where they don't follow the older standard dry London gin formula. Mm-hmm. So they've got things like, of course, the juniper berries in there. They also have clove and orange peel, angelica roots, grains of paradise, frankincense, apricot kernels, and coriander. So the flavor profile from the gin is giant, just like the Fernet is.
Yeah.
And so when you mix it in a cocktail, it takes on this massive flavor where your typical classic cocktails turn into something that are just masterful and really unique compared to using other ingredients. It's been a fun ride with Cardinal, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, one of the things I'm really excited about is that new Western style of gin that's hitting the market now. So for those of you that don't know what that means, like traditional London Dry style is very intense on the juniper. It's like drinking a Christmas tree essentially. But the new London or the new Western style gin is much more subdued on that juniper kind of component. It really focuses on a lot of the other ingredients that you're infusing into the gin. And it's really fantastic. A new style of gin for vodka lovers, essentially. It's a great kind of transition into a much more botanically focused spirit.
It's funny because all the time, vodka is definitely the dominant spirit right now in the bar world. But when I sometimes convince people to try gin, Cardinal gin especially, the customer, they're like, wow, that's really good. And I don't even like gin. Yeah. And it's like, well, yes, you do like gin. You just like very good gin. That's all.
Right.
Yeah, that's the problem is I think that gin has a really bad reputation from, in my opinion, from the really, really heavy juniper flavored gins and also from the cheap gins. And nobody likes cheap anything. So I don't know why anybody would say that.
I think that probably a lot of people try gin for the first time when they're on the younger side of the drinking age. I would imagine anywhere from somebody who's 16 sneaking a drink out of their parents' liquor cabinet all the way up to 21 or 22 the first time that they try gin. and it's typically with something that's not necessarily a fine crafted spirit.
Right.
So, and then
Yeah.
they probably drink too much of it, and then how the whole
Right.
story goes.
I do also think a lot of people start with gin and tonic because they go, they're in college and they say, this is really easy to make. But gin and tonic
Right.
really is an acquired taste,
Yeah,
in my opinion. So that's kind of a tough
Absolutely.
place to start.
tonic also is one of those things where, let's be honest, it's not really that good by itself.
No, it's
and
not.
You can get some pretty bad tonic.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you're starting with the cheapest tonic and the cheapest gin,
You're going to
You're
have
not
a
gonna
pretty
like
bad
it.
drink at the end anyways.
Right, I agree.
So,
yeah, well, that's really sort of exciting to see where Cardinal is taking it. Absolutely, because I've definitely seen gin changing in the last, really recent, like the last 3 to 5 years, where people are starting to give it a chance. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. It's fun. I like to tell people that gin is in. Gin is in.
Gin is
in.
in.
I love
That's
it.
a T-shirt.
yeah.
I know.
Excellent. So,
So let me tell you guys about some of the recipes that I've been working with.
yeah,
That'd be
absolutely.
awesome.
Products. And for you guys at home, I'm going to try to make this super simple and go through it really quickly. But one of the things I've been doing with the Cardinal Gin this summer and last summer has been doing a sage watermelon gin fizz.
Ooh, yum.
Which is super, super refreshing. Now, if anybody likes things a little sweeter, of course, when I say to add the simple syrup, which is the sugar component of a cocktail, then you can just simply turn it up a little bit. And if anybody likes them a little less sweet, you just turn it down a little bit. So these recipes should always be crafted towards your personal taste in order to enjoy them at the optimal level, absolutely. So what I first do with the sage watermelon gin fizz is I just cut the watermelon up in cubes to make it really easy to handle.
Uh-huh.
And I take 2 cubes of the watermelon, and I use seedless watermelon so that it's less messy. And then I throw them in a glass along with a lime wedge. And then I take my muddler and I just smash those ingredients up together, get them nice and mixed and mashed up and almost blended, together.
Right.
And then I made a sage simple syrup, which is actually not as hard as it sounds. So you can take a small handful of sage, or no, excuse me, two handfuls of sage, and then put it in some water with, let's say, a half a liter of water in a pot. Turn it on, and then as soon as it's getting ready to crack a boil, you take it off, and then you add sugar. Now, again, you can do the sugar for your own personal taste, but if I have a half liter of water, I use a quarter liter of sugar. So I use half as much sugar as I do the liquid.
So a real light
So
syrup.
then, absolutely.
Nice.
And that's again to my personal preference, but it really has worked out well with my recipes, and sort of makes everything very easy to make.
Nice. All right.
Yeah. So then simply let that sit for 30 minutes or an hour, somewhere around there, and then you strain off the leaves, and now you have a sage simple syrup.
Nice. So you're essentially making a sweet sage tea.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
All right.
I refer to it as letting it steep constantly.
Perfect.
I like that.
So then I add 3/4 of an ounce of my newly made sage simple syrup, 1.5 ounces of the Cardinal gin, and then I fill it with either ginger ale, and then if that's a little sweet for you, then you can add a little bit of soda water, or just totally soda water if you want it even less sweet than that. Or one of my new favorite ingredient mixers to play with is kombucha.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So we have a kombucha distillery here in Charlotte called Lenny Boy, and they are awesome. And they do everything USDA organic and as much stuff as locally sourced as possible. And they have a ginger kombucha that is magnificent. So
Nice.
a lot of times in substitute for a ginger ale, I'll use their ginger kombucha.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so then I just shake that on ice and pour it in a big glass and garnish it with like one of those extra watermelon cubes, and it is so summertime refreshing.
That sounds delicious.
It sounds like a summer barbecue in a glass.
Looks like we're going to be having a couple of those in the next couple of weeks here.
You guys are making me hungry now. We got to stop talking about it.
Seriously, right? Yeah. That sounds like a really great cocktail. We're definitely going to have to try that, and we'll provide a link to all the recipes that you recommend in our show notes at mixologytalk.com/13.
I think we're 13, yeah.
Yeah, holy cow, number 13.
Lucky 13.
Yeah.
I know.
And you are our first guest as well.
Yeah,
on
you're our
Mixology
first
Talk,
interview,
so.
believe it or not.
What?
I
That's
know.
wonderful.
How crazy
I'm
is
so
that?
honored. Thank you guys so much.
No, thank you for taking the time to do that. Now, how do you recommend? We were talking about Fernet earlier. Is there any advice you have for first-time drinkers for Fernet?
Yes, absolutely. Fernet can be done several different ways. I prefer it neat because I enjoy the flavor of Fernet immensely.
Mm-hmm.
However, you can do things again as simply as adding it with cola,
Right.
or you can do. I have another super easy recipe here for Fernet sour.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's it's actually pretty easy to make, and this does include an egg white. So if any one of you out there is a little turned off by egg whites, I would say just leave it out, and you don't have to do it. But it is fantastic with an egg white. It adds a lot of mouthfeel and texture to it.
Nice.
But
I love egg
anyway,
white
I
cocktails.
just use a limited lime wedge and muddle that with about a half ounce of simple syrup,
Yeah.
which again is sugar water. And then add an ounce and a half of Fernet, and then an egg white. And if you don't want the egg white, don't do it.
Cool.
But then I'd give it a shake, and then strain it into like a martini-style glass or a coupe glass, something where it's not on the rocks.
Nice.
And it is absolutely wonderful because the sweetness and the lemon and lime play off that bitter flavor and that wonderful medicinal flavor that Fernet offers, and it is another great summertime option.
Yeah, and if you are willing to try the egg whites, I could see that sort of silky smooth texture also really kind of adding to the herbal component.
Absolutely. I would suggest everybody try it at least once with the egg white. It turns people a little crazy sometimes, but if you have egg beaters or fresh eggs, and handle your eggs correctly, then it is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Definitely.
Nice.
Well, let's be honest. Egg whites are good for you.
Yeah.
It's protein.
It's protein. It's part of your complete
Egg whites
breakfast.
are good.
Oh, nice.
Probably wouldn't recommend an egg white cocktail for breakfast.
Why not?
Ooh.
But I'm not going to tell you what to do. Go for it. I love that. So, no, I really think you've given us a couple great recipes to play with that I think we're going to have to give them a try.
Yeah, for sure.
Please.
Yeah.
So before we go, I know you've talked a little bit about the amazing things that are going on in your area. Can you let our audience know where they can find you online and if there's anything else you'd like to share?
Absolutely. My Instagram page, you can keep up with me. I post several times a week on Instagram. And you can find me at Bob_Peters. So the little @ Bob_Peters, Peters.
Perfect.
And also, you can find me in some of these recipes. You can find on my YouTube channel, and just look up Bob Peters on YouTube.
Bob Peters on YouTube.
Perfect.
Great.
And like we
Absolutely.
mentioned, we'll definitely include all of these links on the show notes page, which you can find at mixologytalk.com/13.
Perfect. So, well, thank you very much, Bob, for joining us. This has definitely been a lot of fun. And before you go, is there any other words of wisdom that you have for people making cocktails at home?
I would just tell people to explore and have fun.
I love it.
It's just a cocktail. The worst possible scenario, you're going to have to drink a drink. That's the worst that can happen to you.
That's true. It's not too bad.
Have fun with it.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Bob. And
guys, thank you so much. I really enjoyed being on your show. Thank you.
That's a lot of fun. Very cool. Well, we will definitely catch up with you next time. And until then,
I hope you guys all have a great evening, and cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Awesome, and big thanks to Bob Peters for coming and chatting with us.
As promised, next week we're going to bring you the episode we'd originally planned for this time, and it's all about food.
I can't wait for that one. So don't forget to hop over to mixologytalk.com/13, where you can find links to Bob's Instagram account and his YouTube channel as well.
See you next week.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Never miss an episode by subscribing in iTunes or YouTube. And as always, check out the show notes by clicking on the right.